What's going on, guys, and welcome yourselves back to episode 2 in my top 10 series. So last week we went over the top 10 worst purchases that you can make in Red Dead Online, and this week we're going to be covering the top 10 ability cards that you guys must own. And then at the very end of the video we're going to go over the best ability card combinations that you can use for Freeroam, for PvP, and for Showdown series. So let's get right into it. Up first at the number 10 spot is Horseman. It's a rank 10 card in the combat category. This one will allow you to deal a little more damage while on horseback. I find this ability card is best used for Freeroam, since most of the PvP modes in Red Dead Online don't actually allow you to use mounts. However, when you're kicking around in Freeroam and some Freeroam events, you're going to always be mounted on your horse. It's something you're always going to be doing when you're exploring and doing a lot of the Freeroam events like Dispatch Rider. You're always going to be mounted, so having that damage boost is critical. If you upgrade this ability card to tier 2 and tier 3, it's going to increase your damage, meaning you're going to be dealing more and more damage when you're on horseback, and you can really blast away any griefers that try to bother you. I'm not going to go over the costs for each ability card in this countdown because the costs are all fixed. It's basically $900 for each ability card to max it out at level 3. At the number 9 spot is Strange Medicine. It's a rank 32 card in the recovery section. This one will allow you to gain health whenever you inflict damage, however your health will otherwise regenerate at half of the normal rate. I believe the rate of health benefits is around an eighth of your health whenever you're inflicting damage, so it's not going to make you into a complete tank, but it is going to provide a nice health boost for you. Strange Medicine is an ability card that I tend to use for specific game modes. I find it's most useful in Freeroam and also Freeroam events where there's a PvP objective involved. The area you'll start to really notice the impact of this card is if you end up in any hand-to-hand boxing matches, since each time you land a punch on an enemy, you're going to be healing. So if you're boxing anybody that does not have this card active, they're going to most certainly be outmatched from you. This card does come with a slight disadvantage that your health regeneration will be half as effective as before, but quite honestly, how often do you find yourself sitting in a corner waiting for your health to regenerate when you're in a PvP match? It's not really much of a disadvantage at all. Being able to heal by inflicting damage is a much more effective way of healing. And plus, if you are really low on health and about to die, you can always drink a tonic if you need to heal very quickly. I find this card especially useful if I'm pushing an enemy team back and they're spawning right in front of you and you need to get quite a lot of fast kills. If you end up getting hit, you can regenerate quickly and kind of recoup yourself by just keeping on spawn killing the enemy on the front lines. Next up is Slow and Steady. It's a rank 24 Deadeye ability card. So while Deadeye is active, you take less damage and headshots do not kill you outright. And meanwhile you cannot run or sprint when Deadeye is active. So this ability card almost didn't make this list since it was heavily nerfed. Previously this was the go-to ability card for Deadeye, but now it's only useful in certain situations. I tend to use it for Freeroam and Freeroam events since you can sponge headshots, and in my opinion the best way to use this card is to just activate it in an emergency situation when you know someone's landing hits on you and you need a moment to locate where you're getting hit from, or you notice a red dot on your minimap, there's someone behind you. You don't have time to defend yourself, but you can flash on Deadeye, turn around, and you can sponge a headshot and be able to turn on anybody behind you. So Slow and Steady is no longer a completely OP card like it was before, but it definitely is worth having in your options for certain situations. At the number 7 spot is Paint It Black, and this is a rank 1 Deadeye card. So while Deadeye is active, you can paint targets onto your enemies and fire your weapon to shoot all of those marked targets. This ability card is extremely useful because it comes with quite a few different uses. First of all, you can use it to target enemy players that are using the Slippery card, allowing you to lock on and shoot players that otherwise can't be locked onto. Especially when you're playing those objective game modes where you have people using the Slippery card, running all the way into your base, capturing an objective and running back to their base. It can be really useful to take them out. If you do upgrade this card, it's going to be using less and less Deadeye per shot that you make. Another use of this card is to be able to land shots on enemies who are really far in the distance, too far from you to lock onto on your weapons. However, if you do go into Deadeye mode, you can still paint targets on enemies that you're not actually able to lock onto. And then the third use of this card is for a bit more of the experienced PvP players, and this one does require very accurate timing and aiming, but you can use Deadeye to increase your accuracy with Painted Black. Now, I'm by no means an expert of doing this myself, but what you basically do is aim at an enemy and then flash into Deadeye, and it'll give you perfect accuracy without the bloom. And it basically stops the spread of your weapons, so quite often it's used for shotguns, and guys, if you master this technique, you're going to be an absolute machine when you're playing Showdown series. At the number 6 spot is Slippery. For the purpose of this video, I'm just going to be calling this one Slippery, not by its full name because I don't want to get demonetized. But this is quite a high level card. It's rank 50 under the Deadeye section. And while this is active, enemy players will not be able to lock on to you, and you won't be able to lock on to any enemy players. This ability card does have quite a high rank requirement. However, once you unlock this, you're going to be extremely powerful in Showdown series. So much so actually that a lot of players have been requesting that Rockstar completely disables Slippery in the objective game modes. What this card will basically do is allow you to run right into an enemy base, grab an objective, and make it out of there while in Deadeye, and no enemies will be able to lock onto you. It's going to be really difficult for them to be able to stop you. The only counter for this card is for them to basically run up and tackle you onto the ground, or for them to be using the Painted Black ability card that will allow them to paint targets on you. But either way, this is a very powerful card, and it makes it very difficult to deal with if this player's running into your base with shotguns and you're not able to lock onto them. Up next is the Unblinking Eye. This is a rank 26 defense ability, and it's pretty self-explanatory. If you're needing to use a lot of Deadeye or Eagle Eye, it's going to drain it slower. This card is useful in most PvP game modes and Showdown series, as it will complement whatever your Deadeye card is. So if you're using Painted Black, or I find most effectively if you're using Slippery, this ability will mean you use less tonics and you can stay in Deadeye longer. Especially if you're playing capture objectives and you have to make a really long sprint for a long period of time in Deadeye, and you don't want enemies locking onto you, this card can mean that you can actually stay in Deadeye for quite a long time, especially as you upgrade it to tier 2 and tier 3. If you guys are enjoying this video so far, I'd really appreciate if you could take a second to leave it a like, and also subscribe if you haven't already for more videos like this. Next up is Peak Conditioning, a rank 14 ability card in the recovery section, and this is going to allow you to do a little more damage if your stamina is at least 75% full. Peak Condition is an ability card I like to use in Freeroam and also in Freeroam events, and the reason being is in these situations I tend to have a full stamina bar. When I'm playing Showdown modes and more objective game types, I tend to be sprinting a lot, either to find enemies or I'm sprinting to objectives, so that tends to defeat the purpose of having this card if your stamina is going to be lower than 75% for most of the game. It's also worth bearing in mind if you're the kind of player that likes to dive a lot when you're in PvP, be aware that each time you dive it's also going to consume quite a lot of stamina, so that can quickly take you below the threshold to not get the damage boost. At the number 3 spot is Winning Streak, a rank 48 card in the combat category. This is going to make each consecutive shot that you land on the same target do more damage. Winning Streak is another card I like to use in Freeroam and Freeroam events. In PvP situations, you basically always want to be aiming for the head on enemies, but being able to land powerful body shots can also be a huge advantage in PvP, especially if you have people running diagonally across from you. It can be sometimes quite hard to land a headshot on those people. So what this ability card allows you to do is if you miss a headshot or land a body shot on someone, it's going to deal enough damage for you to be able to take them out in just 2 body shots with a powerful rifle. At the number 2 spot is an Eye for an Eye, which is a rank 28 ability card in the recovery section. This one will allow headshots to restore more of your Deadeye. This is actually one of my favourite cards, and I pretty much always have it in my ability card loadout. Especially if you're good at landing headshots in Red Dead Online, this card is going to be a game changer for you. Essentially, every time you land a headshot on an enemy, you're going to be restoring your Deadeye meter, allowing you to make use of Slippery or Painted Black or whatever you're using for your Deadeye card more often. You should definitely invest in tier 2 and tier 3 of this card because it's going to really increase the effectiveness of it. In PvP, you should always be going for headshots on enemies anyway, so by just taking out other players in PvP and getting headshots, this card is just going to be quickly restoring your Deadeye without always having to consume tonics. And that leaves me with the number 1 must-own ability card, and it has to go to Never Without One. It's a rank 46 card in the defense ability. The reason this card gets my number 1 spot is because it is always in my loadout. No matter what I'm doing, if it's a Freeroam event, PvP, Showdown series, I will always have this card active. And the reason being is it saves my life so often. Now, a lot of players actually stopped using this card since it was nerfed in the spring update, since they think it's no longer worth using. However, I don't believe that's the case. So basically what happened was previously this ability card would block any headshot, so if someone hit you in the mouth, it would save your life. However, it will no longer protect you when they're hitting you in the face, and it will only save your life if the bullet hits your hat. However, it's very often that people do hit your hats in online, and if you do notice anyone else using this, it'll play a very distinct sound effect if you do land a hat shot on someone. So it's very often that people do shoot off your hat because they're always trying to aim and then flick up on their left analog stick. So it's very often that this card does save my life. The only drawback of this card is the fact that when your hat has been knocked off, you will take increased damage. So now we've gone over the top 10 ability cards, I want to take you guys through my 3 main loadouts for actually putting these ability cards into practical use. So I have a loadout that I use for Freeroam events, and also Showdown series. So my Showdown series loadout consists of Slippery, we've got an eye for an eye so I can recoup Deadeye on headshots, we've got the Unblinking Eye so I can use Deadeye for longer, and we've got Never Without One so I can survive headshots. For Freeroam events, we've got Slow and Steady so I can sponge headshots, and we've got the same setup with an eye for an eye, the Unblinking Eye, and Never Without One. I sometimes do switch in the Horseman card if the Freeroam event does include a horse. And then for playing around in Freeroam, I have Paint It Black, I've got Horseman since I'm usually on my horse, we've got Stranger Medicine, Never Without One, and then I sometimes switch in Peak Conditioning depending on what I'm doing. So these are my 3 main loadouts in Red Dead Online. Unfortunately, there's not an easy way to switch between them. There's no way to preset ability cards. Hopefully it's something Rockstar adds in the future, but at the moment it's a bit of a manual process. You have to go into your ability card menu and change them manually, and it seems to count them as a process when you change your cards, so sometimes there's a little delay when you're switching your cards, but currently that's the only way to do it. If you guys are new to my channel, don't forget to leave a like on the video and subscribe so you don't miss out on any future top 10s for Red Dead Online. Have a great day guys, and I'll catch you in the next one.